Hey guys, it's Moss. Welcome back to my channel. Today we have an interesting video that I have been thinking about posting for a while now for multiple reasons. The first reason being that I think it would just be interesting to see the car buying experience from a 20-year-old. And a lot of you are probably in college and you think to yourself, the vehicle that I want or a newer vehicle is just way too expensive. I don't know how people my age can do that, and I don't understand how people that aren't getting YouTube money or getting Instagram money or all of these things are doing this. How is it possible? Well, that is what I want to explain and hopefully help you guys figure out for yourself and see how it would be possible for you to do something like this and show you that it's completely possible. But there are things to consider, and the ways to make it happen start with you. You are the first thing. So what I want to talk about first is, why are you doing this? What is the purpose that you want a newer vehicle or a new vehicle in general? Okay, and what do you consider new? Is it brand new, a 2019, or do you consider something newer than what you drive now, maybe a 2005, 2006? Is it that you want? You know, a used vehicle that is a lot older, a used vehicle that's not too much older, or a new vehicle? We have an age range, we'll call it that we're looking at, and that's where you have to make a decision. And you look at that range, and for me, I started about 3 years ago, and I was over here to the far left because I was a senior in high school, and I was thinking to myself, there's no way I can get anything newer. I was looking at even used vehicles and saying to myself, really, these are all expensive. But it's all in your mindset and your goal setting of how you look at it and what you look at and what category of those three are you looking at, and that's where you start at. And that's where I started. I was driving my parents' 1998 F-150, perfectly good truck, awesome. They bought it brand new off the lot in 1998, and that's where I started. So maybe you're starting in whatever your parents handed down to you. It might not be as nice as what I started with, but at the time, 16-year-old me was stoked to drive that vehicle. And like most teenage guys or teenagers in general, I decided that I had to make it cool. And I got the bigger tires and wheels and lift kit. And like most guys, I was one of those guys that did that. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever. Well, it is cool, and I still think that those vehicles look good today, but that's not what this video is about. But what I can tell you is that in my 20s, I see it differently now, and I say, okay, is what I drive practical? Is it good on fuel economy? And how is the drivability? Because on a big lifted truck, you can't just park everywhere. You can't just drive everywhere because sometimes it's hard. And not a lot of guys or girls like to admit that because it's not cool to admit that. But we're in our 20s, we're older, we're considered by some adults. Some of us might not be that mature, but hopefully all of us are, that we can discuss things like this in a reasonable manner and look at it and say, okay, what is reasonable and what is not? And for me, it was just not reasonable to keep driving a 16-year-old truck. Not 16 years old, the truck, but a truck that a 16-year-old would drive. Okay, I am starting my professional career, and in my professional career, I want my image, in what I drive, how I dress, how I talk, and how I act. All of those things are marketing my brand, and my brand is me, Moss Caballero. And that's all part of your self-image and what you want to look like. So enough of that. Let's just go back to what we were talking about. I think we're going to get off on a tangent somewhere else if not. So anyways, we are now going to talk about looking around and shopping and seeing. Now, once we've decided what is a new vehicle to us, we are deciding, okay, now let's look at whatever bracket we're in or whatever part of the spectrum. So let's say, for instance, we are in the used spectrum. Okay, we're somewhere in the middle and we're looking at vehicles 2 to 3 years old. I think this is a good place to start because maybe there is something that you're looking at newer. Let's just say that you do care what you drive, not care, what it looks like and stuff, but you care about something particular. There's something particular you want that you've been looking at of cars, and you say, this is what I want, but I can't afford it brand new. Okay, well, let's look in the 2 to 3 year old range. Now, those vehicles that are 2 to 3 years old, we need to figure out, where am I going to find them? Is there any in my area? Well, the best advice I can give you is to go to Car Gurus, download the Car Gurus app, whatever. I never used the app. I probably should have, but I just really looked on the internet, looked on my computer, looked on my phone, and I was on it all the time. I was looking everywhere, and one thing I found, and I think this will be really helpful to you, helpful advice for using the Car Gurus app, is that if you're looking for something specific, you're going to have to look in a wider radius, most likely. Now, let's change spectrums. Let's look at new to a year old and say we don't care really what we drive. We're just in search of something new. You are just going to get a new car. Maybe it's going to be called Lucy, and it's going to be whatever you are able to get, and you don't really care what it looks like. You might just pick out your favorite color, okay? And guys, you might just be saying, oh, well, whatever, is good on gas and whatever's cheap, that's what I'm looking at. Okay, well, for you guys, let's do this. Let's look at the new to 1 year old vehicles. And what we're going to do is we're going to go maybe to our local dealership, and we might look on Car Gurus as well, but we're going to look first at our dealership. Maybe go to your local Toyota dealership, your local Kia, your local Nissan, those dealerships, and we're going to look at what they have in brand new to year old vehicles and see what's in our budget, and we're just going to get whichever one of those we like, and we're happy. Okay, I think that is good. That is great. If that's you, it makes it a whole lot easier. And then you're just saying, wow, that's a nice looking car. That's a nice color. Okay, I'm happy with that. I'm going to name my car whatever, and you're good to go. You drive off and post a picture on Instagram, and you're happy. Awesome. Okay, now there might be some of you who are like me, and you're looking at something specific, and you're trying to not really stretch your budget, but you're trying to get the most for your budget. Okay, that was me, and I was trying to stay practical when I did this, so I wasn't saying, oh, I'm gonna go look at Porsches and I'm gonna look at Lexus and the high-end BMWs. No, but I will say I did at one point start out looking at the BMW range. So I was looking at BMWs and went from there to looking at newer trucks, and those are two very different vehicles, but for me, it's a personal preference. I like the ride and the drivability of a truck, and don't think that a truck is cheaper than a car, because you usually end up spending a lot more money on a truck than you would a brand new car. For instance, with 2019s came in not too long ago, 2018s go on sale. Dealerships are trying to get rid of 2018s. So if you're looking at something specific, 2018 might be what you're looking for. It's a year old, and the price is probably going to be a lot better than brand new, because they're not going off MSRP anymore, because the vehicle is either used or they still have it on the lot. And if it's still on the lot, probably they're going off MSRP, but it is way discounted. So if you don't know, MSRP, manufacturer's suggested retail price. So that is what the company manufacturer decides a vehicle should be, and then most of the time the dealerships are 5 to 10,000 under that, and that is how they price new vehicles. Now on a used vehicle, it all depends on the mileage, the shape of the vehicle's in, all of these things, and how it was used. Look at on the final end of it, are you going to pay cash for a vehicle, or are you going to finance a vehicle and make payments? Because it's all in what you can do and how you're going to go through with it. And that's what I recommend to you. Look at those and look at those reasonably and say, you know, can I take this much money and put it all at once towards this vehicle, or do I need to make payments, and do I need to gradually pay for it? But remember, in the end, if you do make payments, the interest rate is going to make it higher than if you did pay cash, but you might not be able to pay cash. So make sure that you look at those things and see. So those are things to consider when you're looking. So like I said, we're in that new to 1 year old range. There is a lot we can look at. Now let's say we're in the, let's make another range. Let's make a 1 to 3 year old range. This is the range that I was probably in the most when I was looking, because this 1 to 3 year old range, you have a lot if you're looking for something very specific. Because what happens is you might be able to get something a lot newer, but it might not have as much on it, you know, as much options as a 1 to 2 year old or 2 to 3 year old vehicle, just because of the fact that it's so much newer. That is where looking, especially on Car Gurus, comes into effect, and you have so much that you can look at, and it's going to be a lot harder, because what happens is you probably are going to have to look long distance to find what you're looking for, because now you're looking for something really specific. You're looking for certain options, and these things all matter to you. You are like handpicking this vehicle. It's how I was, and maybe that's how you are. You're looking for something, and that is the one you want. Okay, well, I did not believe that you would get attached to vehicles, but it happens. When you're looking, don't get attached. Just look, and if you have to walk away, because what you're going to find is there's going to be a better deal around the corner. But the deals kind of vary, and sometimes you have to wait a couple weeks before that next deal comes out, especially when you're looking on Car Gurus, because they're going to pop up, and then next week there's going to be another one, and you might say, wow, well, this one's a little bit better than that one. But keep looking and looking. For me, I had a certain list of options for that model that I wanted, and these were options that I tried to say were kind of priority, but if I couldn't get them, I would try my best to get as close to them as I could. So I was looking at vehicles with parking sensors, looking at vehicles with sliding rear windows, looking at vehicles with leather. Those kind of things were important to me, and options that I wanted, just because I wanted to make sure that if I was going to spend that money on this vehicle, that it had the most options that I could get in my price range. And that's what you want to look at, because you don't want to get like a base model if you can get something nicer than that. And it's all in looking and looking. Okay, so here we go to the first dealership. This is my experience, and I look at a, let's see, at the time, a 2-year-old vehicle. Okay, the 2-year-old vehicle, when I get to the dealership, has absolutely no warranty on it. It says vehicle as is, had incredibly low miles, which was super impressive. I was saying to myself, wow, this is so good. And that was the first one I looked at. So automatically, like I said, it becomes stuck in your head. Wow, this is the one. It has everything. You know, really, this one was fully loaded. So I'm looking at it and saying, this is the one. It's right close to home. Don't even have to travel to get it. Perfect. Okay, that's not really practical, and that's not what you need to do, because what I found is then about 2 or 3 weeks later, I find this one on Car Gurus. This vehicle was actually in Mississippi. I had a friend going to college in Mississippi, and I decided to have her go and look at this vehicle. She did, sent me pictures of it, and what I find is that this vehicle is not in the greatest shape, because on their website, the pictures that they show, they leave out one thing. The bed of the truck is completely scratched up. I'm sure that it was just from actually being used, and probably whatever they used, they scratched up the paint because the vehicle didn't have a bed liner. If you're familiar with trucks, you might not understand. If you don't know anything about trucks, you're probably like, what in the world is he talking about? A bed liner. Okay, the bed of a truck most of the time comes painted, just paint, but sometimes you can get a bed liner. That was another option that I wanted from the factory, because I didn't want my paint to be scratched all in the bed of the truck. And this particular one was completely scratched. What ends up is, I'm saying now at this point, okay, how much is it going to be to put a bed liner? We're negotiating back and forth. And when I'm ready to make a decision, this vehicle is now sold. Thank goodness. At the time, I didn't feel that way, because I felt, because I'd become attached to it, that this was the perfect vehicle and that there wasn't going to be any more like it, and that no other ones were going to fit in my price range. Well, that's where a vehicle in Atlanta comes up on Car Gurus. I'd seen it before. This vehicle is only 1 year old and has incredibly low miles, a good Carfax. Make sure you look at the Carfax. And I decided to go and look at this vehicle, and it was really difficult when you start looking long distance, because now you're making a decision to drive 400 miles almost to purchase a vehicle that you have never seen before. What ends up is that you could not do any of the transactions online. You could not place a holder. They were asking for the full amount to be able to do that, which I understand. You know, they don't want to lose out on a sale, and they don't want to be scammed or any of that. So that's something to keep in mind if you're looking long distance, is that you're going to have to deal with negotiations and negotiate a lot more, and it's going to be a lot heavier negotiation because you're having to travel, and they're not going to hold a vehicle for you, at least at this particular dealership. So when I get up there, basically this vehicle is mine almost, and everything but the paperwork is signed. I get up there, it's exactly what they say it was going to be. A great experience. The salesmen were great, had everything ready for me. The vehicle was in pristine condition, awesome, exactly what I was looking for, and I just couldn't believe how nice a vehicle for a 20-year-old that it was. And that's one thing I want to tell you, is don't be ashamed of whatever you drive. Don't let people make you feel bad if you drive an older vehicle, or you know, it's not the best looking, or it makes noise or squeaks, or you know, whatever. Don't worry about that. If you drive the nicest vehicle, you know, don't let people talk you down from that. Don't let people discourage you, because like I said, we're in our 20s, we're adults. Don't you know, make a big deal about what somebody drives. That's irrelevant. If somebody drives something nice, compliment them. If somebody doesn't drive something nice, just be nice and, you know, compliment them. Who knows why they're doing that? They might, you know, be saving money, or that's what their parents gave them. So think about those things, because when I got my vehicle, I was just like so stoked and so incredibly blown away having something like that at 20 years old, that for the first couple weeks, I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, this is just too nice for someone my age. And, you know, I know that I see on YouTube, there's these 19, 20-year-old kids who are driving around Lamborghinis and Porsches and BMW i8s, and those are all amazing vehicles. I've rode in Ferrari and 350Z, all of these cars, and I like sports cars as well, and they're cars, you know. At the end of the day, that's what they are, and that's not something you should make a big deal about. So for me, just settling into that the first couple weeks and driving around in it, I was just like, wow, you know, I'm incredibly blessed and fortunate to be able to do this, because I manage my money to be able to make this decision. And if you haven't seen my online college video, look at that, because online college really helped me to stay at work and keep working and go to school at the same time. And a lot of you already do that. You're on campus and you work after school, and that's great because you're able to do both. But for me, I was able to properly manage both and work and go to school at the same time. I'm still getting a degree just like everyone else. I take just as many classes, took 22 credit hours this semester. These are all things that contributed to me being able to make a decision like this at 20 years old. And that's the thing, is when you look around, you might just say, oh, it's only like Instagram celebrities or famous people who drive really nice vehicles. Well, it's not about really nice. You can get something newer that's just practical, or you can get something that's nice. But look and see what's out there, because you'd be really surprised and it would shock you, and you'd say, wow, it really can happen. But set your goals realistically, and I hope this encourages you to not feel like, well, at this age. So this week we have been feeding the World Changers at church. They're teenagers who have come from all over the country. There are 215 of them, I believe, this year here. We have a group of about 10 or 12 here at our church that we've been feeding this week. They're doing local mission projects and helping in the community. Great work that they're doing. And we have Vacation Bible School at our church tonight as well, so teaching and helping with that tonight. So that has been what has occupied my time this week. Next week, got a very special video coming up about my upcoming trip to Charlotte, so stay tuned. I really encourage you to watch that. So much I'm going to be talking about in that really good video coming up. So I will see you guys soon. Have a great rest of the week.